So we're going to close, or we're getting close to the end, we're going to talk a little bit about relationships. And I'm going to focus specifically on the caregiver relationship. There are those people in our lives that come along and help us through the tough times. When we talk about caregivers, the mind immediately goes to a spouse or a parent type of relationship with someone who's ill. But caregiving is so much more than that. You know, spending time with someone and just sitting there and listening is an incredible gift that a caregiver can give a survivor. Doing the laundry, doing the Julie things, taking people a meal and writing a card on with it. These sorts of things kind of connect us all, and they really have to get to the heart of how essential the caregiver is. So as a medical professional, it's so much, it's so much more important for us to have not only a relationship with our patients, but a relationship with their family or their caregiver. Because what will happen is you will ask your patient, how is this and how is that? And they'll go, it was fine. And behind them is the caregiver going, it was not. So you always know where you can get the truth, because they're the ones telling how awful it can be. And as I always tell patients, you got to be honest with us and tell us what I'm doing to you, because I can't fix it and I can't tweak it if I don't know what's happening. And you're not here to make me feel better. I'm here to make you feel better. So we oftentimes rely on the caregivers. And I'll be honest, the caregiver will pull you in the hallway and say, hey, guess what's happening? And then my job is to make it all natural and part of the conversation and just work it in. So to our caregivers, we appreciate everything you've done. You are just amazing. And from the caregiver's point of view, it's oftentimes difficult to separate them from the person that they're caring for. Their lives become entwined. They become almost one in the same. And I'll ask a question and I'll see two people answer the same question at the same time in exactly the same way. And then sometimes you'll ask a question and they'll answer the exact same time in the exactly opposite way. So it's really interesting how the two lives merge and blend. So I'm going to focus this one down for caregivers who are survivors, or survivors who are caregivers, those who've had both roles. And just to get an idea of, and that can be a child or a parent, or, I'm not trying to see if one's better than the other, but I just want to see which one you found more challenging. So for number one, the caregiver role was more challenging, and number two, the survivor role was more challenging. And I would like to invite Kristin Grassi up to help us with this next song. I guess she's known. Kristin is a local gal who has done amazing things. She's from Emmaus, right?
I'm from Allentown, actually.
Allentown. A very local girl who has been trained in Kutztown, and she worked with their through their jazz studies program. She actually won a national competition for jazz recording, and you will soon hear why. Anyone who's heard some of our recordings, Kristin's the other voice that you hear. So again, surrounding people who are better than you. We have a wonderful song that sort of talks about that relationship between two people as they go through a difficult part in their lives. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood.
Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you,
'cause I knew you, I have been changed for good.
And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for.
But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea,
like a seed that meets
like a seed
molar
dropped by a bird in the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better.
And because I knew you,
'Cause I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
That one. Before we were there, we were here. We talked about for survivors who are caregivers and who've had both roles, which they found the most challenging. So I wonder if this is going to be a surprise. I've never asked this to a group. I've asked this to a lot of individuals, so there's always that pressure to answer it the right way. But now that everyone's anonymous, let's see what we got. Ha! So what's anyone's first thought? So that caregiver role is really tough. You got to be the chauffeur. You got to be the cook. You got to be the person who gets the medicine. You got to be the doctor. You got to kind of look on the internet and find out which are the appropriate treatments. You got to be the nurse. You got to rebandage everything and help with medications. You got to be everything, and then you have to be you too. So I think this, and I was really hoping this to show this way, that caregivers can now have some semblance of, yeah, it's, now we've heard from people who've been through both, how difficult that actually is. So we applaud you, and thank you, caregivers, for everything you do for us.